And would you pray with me? Enlightening God, when the thought of you wakes in our hearts, let it not awaken like a frightened bird that flies about in dismay. Rather, like a child waking from its sleep with a heavenly smile. Amen. My grandmother taught me a lot of things while she was with us. And one of the things that I remember from her teaching, that you can learn very much about a person by the company they keep. In Texas, they have a tradition very similar to what my grandmother said. If you ride with horse thieves, you will hang with horse thieves. Birds of a feather flock together. The Pharisees and the scribes, the educated folk, saw Jesus and looked at those who accompanied him anywhere and everywhere. He rubbed shoulders with those kind of people. Common fishermen, stinking of fish offal. Prostitutes with the lingering scent of cheap perfume. Tax collectors with the smell of money on them. And they called him a whoremonger and a drunkard. And that's how he was known, because of the company he kept. And we judge, do we not? And we are judged by the company we keep. Birds of a feather and all that. What can we say about the company that Jesus kept? Why would those people seek him out? What did he really have to do with them? Certainly, we believe that Jesus is above reproach in his moral leanings, in his ethical practice. Jesus knows what the scribes and Pharisees are thinking, and he told them 3 parables. They're all interrelated, and all of you know them. There's the parable of the lost sheep. 100 sheep the shepherd has, one gets lost. He leaves the 99 and goes out and seeks the lost sheep, and he is happy and calls his friend. A woman loses one of 10 pieces of coins, sweeps the place down in search for it, overturns everything and finds it and calls her friends to come and celebrate. I've known this since I was in my kindergarten teacher Sunday school class, Miss Emmett. I've known these stories, but for the first time, I saw these stories differently than I had ever seen them before. Jesus asked this question: which of you would not leave the 99 sheep out in the wilderness to be consumed by wild dogs, coyotes, wolves, lions, and bears, and go and seek one? Which of you would do that? And which of you, if you lost one coin, would turn your house upside down to find the coin, even though you already had 9, and then at the end invite everybody over for a big party to celebrate that one coin, and now you spent 10 coins on the party? You would not have a Scott surname, I can assure you. Do you see what Jesus is doing? The answer, which of you? None of them would do that. It's crazy to leave your sheep in the wilderness to be eaten just to find one. Cut your losses and rejoice that you still have 99 or 9 cents. Jesus is proposing something totally absurd to the human ear. He is suggesting to the scribes and the Pharisees that God's love exceeds all natural boundaries and all rational experiences that we all have. God's love goes beyond human convention, transcends in a way the normal laws of nature that says the survival of the fittest. Then, having asked a question, having had the scribes and the Pharisees think again to themselves, not only does he keep bad company, he is off his rocker. And then he tells the most loved story in all the Bible about the prodigal sons. Now notice I said S. 2 sons. And we know that beloved story that the younger of the brothers comes to his dad and says, give me all my inheritance up front, pay it forward. I need some stretching room. And he runs off to a faraway country, the scriptures say, and then he wasted all of the inheritance in a wild lifestyle. And before we know it, he is out there slopping the pigs. The lowest form of animal to a Jew is a hog and a pig. They stink. They stink boldly. They eat anything. They'll even eat snakes. That's how you clear your land in Mississippi of water moccasins. You turn the hogs loose. And the scriptures say he would have gladly eaten the pig slop. No one gave him anything. And we know the story. He goes home and his father sees him and he runs to his son, and the son volunteers to be a slave. No, let's kill the fatted calf and celebrate. He who was dead has come alive again. Many of you know this brother. Many of you know the prodigal sister. And many of you have been the prodigal son or daughter. We know what it's like to live in a land far away. Perhaps we know what riotous living means in the visceral part of our being. And he came to himself. Beautiful line. He came to that person that God had intended him to be. Right there in the pig farm. The beautiful text. There we see it displayed before us in those words, and his father loved him and prepared a banquet. How outlandish. He just told his father that he wished he were dead by taking his inheritance, but the father forgives him. There is grace in home. I have appreciated in my life that, from my parents' perspective, if things had blown up, gone bad and mad for me, I could have gone home. And one of the tougher things that I am learning is that one day I will be like my parents, for I will be home for my children when their lives explode. Grace and love appear as a place to go when all goes south upon us. No matter how you have humiliated yourself or your family, God gives us a home and we can always return to it. This is the kind of love that Jesus brings into the world. 1 out of 99, 1 out of 10. And if you and I, look for the common people in the world to bring that to us, we will search in vain. And if we do find it somewhere, it is rare. And behind that love we have found out there is a God who had taught them and lived in them to touch our lives. But there is another son who lives in a faraway land in our story. He is just as lost as his younger brother. He lives in the home of his father. And yet he too has squandered all his gifts, knowing daily that he could embrace his father, knowing the warmth that would exude from such a man, knowing that he would always be employed as long as his father was alive, knowing that he would always have a full stomach. But daily, he had those gifts given to him, and yet it was not enough. Perhaps he was worried when the younger brother came home that now he would have to share what the remainder of the inheritance would be. Instead of half, he would get a quarter because he knew his father too well that he would share what was left with the son who went away. It wasn't fair. And that maybe is the point. That Jesus brings into the world a new kind of justice. Not nullifying old justice, but fulfilling justice most of us would think, well, that's just not fair. The older son is lost because he cannot comprehend this kind of love. It goes beyond his experience, even though it was ready for him all the time. I was preparing class lectures now on theologian Emil Brunner, and I wanted to research the arguments for God's existence. And it's kind of like picking lint out of your navel. It's about that abstract. And there I found some maps of Europe, and then I found a map of the United States, Canada, and Mexico, North America. And shaded were different colors of pink and blue. How many believed in God, a percentage, in Europe? What was interesting was that in Europe, only somewhere between 10 and 20% believe that there is a God. Now, in one of the most persecuted places, Poland, it's over 90%. I'll let you draw your own conclusions from that. In the United States, it showed almost 80% of Americans believe there is a God. 85% of Texans believe there is a God. And then I saw it. There is a condition called passive atheism. And what that means is that we say we believe in God, but we live our lives as if there is no God. Maybe the Europeans are just more honest than we are. Maybe we could define this older son as one of those passive atheists. He believed his father was over there, but he could not believe his father actually loved him. Not a bit of joy came out of him. He did not take joy in the fact that the father had lost a son and now was restored to that son. He was sour. He was bitter. The younger son may have lived in a pigsty, but the older brother had become a pig, devouring all that pigs devour, gobbling up everything, and nothing filled him up. He was always hungry for more. Something unique has happened. The heavens have opened up with Christ, and Christ defined the way God feels about you. National Public Radio Morning Edition told the story of a 31-year-old social worker, Julio Diaz, who had a favorite restaurant in a tough part of town. So he'd get on the subway in New York and he would ride the subway. And he was doing so for his evening meal. And when the subway doors opened, he got out and there was no one else around in that part of the underground tunnel, except for one teenage boy. And as Julio was going to climb the stairs and go up to the street, the teenage boy came towards him and pulled out a knife. "Give me all your money." Julio pulls out his wallet and gives it to him, and the young man was going to slink away in the shadows of those steps leading to the street above. And as he was leaving, Julio cries out to him, "Wait! Wait, take my coat. It's awfully cold out there, and if you're going to spend the rest of the night robbing people, you should at least get warm and do it warm. The young man looks at Julio. Are you crazy? No. I just figured if you're willing to risk your freedom for a few dollars, then you really need the money. I'm going up these stairs to go to dinner, and you're welcome to join me. The young teen does not know how to deal with this. And he follows Julio to the restaurant, and they sit in this diner. And up comes to Julio the waitresses and the waitstaff. Hey, Julio, you having a good evening? And then the owner comes out. Are you having a good evening? Yes, I'm fine. And they'd introduce themselves to the teenage boy. And then the dishwasher comes out from behind the back in the kitchen and comes to Julio. How you doing, Julio? And Julio hears the question, do you own this place? No. I just come here quite often. But you were even nice to the dishwasher. Well, that was the way I was raised, to be nice to all people. Weren't you raised in that way? And he said, yes, I was raised that way, but I never believed anybody really did it. The check comes. Julio says to the young man, you're going to have to pay for this. You got my wallet. But if you give me my wallet back, I'll treat you. And the young man, without hesitation, gives him his wallet back. Julio pulls out a $20 bill and says, I'm going to give you this so you won't have to do this anymore tonight. But I ask you one thing. And the young man did it. This teenage derelict, we would call him, gave Julio Diaz his knife. Like lost sheep, we've all gone astray. But there is out there an uncommon love. That love is waiting to fill starving hearts of younger brothers. That love is waiting to fill empty hearts like the older brother. It is for all those of us who live in a faraway land. It is reserved for us. Whether that far away land be beyond the horizon or in the room just down the hall. Of all the miracles in the Bible, this is the greatest one.